Welcome, Mads. Welcome, everybody. This would be a first talk of CineLink Industry Days, CineLink Talks, and today our guest is Mads Brugger. And it's a great pleasure and honor to have Mads as a guest in a CineLink talks. I would not make a usual introduction on who Mads Brugger is. With his movies, we're gonna go. I believe we're gonna cut through Mads' career during the talks. So let's not have that. Usually at the beginning, I would start saying first, hello, Mads, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, Damir. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, I'm gonna briefly introduce myself. I'm Damir, Šagolj. Very difficult to say in one word, just like you, whether I'm a journalist or I'm whatever. I was a journalist for about 25 years, who covered mostly conflicts and extensively North Korea, as a matter of fact. Among other funny places, and I'm now since few years ago going in a different waters and doing teachings in Sarajevo Academy of Performing Arts and running the Warm Festival in Sarajevo that works with the Sarajevo Film Festival as a partners on a couple of programs. And I found your work not only fascinating because of the quality of the work, but also because it's actually incredible. We never met on a North Korea. A story, the number of characters in your movies that I actually know personally, especially those from Pyongyang, and I believe I recognized even the room that you stayed in that funny hotel on the island in Pyongyang. But what I would like to ask at the beginning is how you introduce yourself. You say at one of your movies, you would say I'm a journalist, and then another movie you would say I'm a filmmaker, and then what would be an exact quote? You would say that I'm a filmmaker who creates sensation. One of your quotes. So who you are, Mads?
Well, it's a case of double identities. In Denmark, my daytime job is journalism. That is my bread and butter work, and that is what I do and have done for approximately at least 20 years, beginning with radio journalism, also working in print, and then gradually moving into television, and then eventually making films, which has always been something I do on the side. It's like a realm where I can explore and the boundaries of journalism, and also indulge in my own fantasies and fetishisms.
I found it fascinating the fact that you are successfully sitting on two chairs that has a very different structure and certainly different rules in which things should be done. Meaning being a journalist on what side that has these very in these days more and more stricter rules in what is allowed and what is not, with all the ethics and the correctness that is being or imposed or always part of it on one side, and on the other side, this if I say Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde would probably be too much, but that other side of medal, then all of a sudden we have this other character. How you manage that duality? How you change those coats or those dancing boots so quickly and so successfully?
Well, basically, learning by doing, but initially it has been and still is a big advantage for me having a foundation or a grounding in journalism. I do recognize that many filmmakers within the documentary community frown upon journalism and finds traditional nuts and bolts journalism as something not very cinematic or appealing, or it's a game of its own. For me, knowing the fundamentals of journalism and how to in practical terms do journalism is an asset really when I make films. And as I said before, it's a career which I have on the side, and my films are normally financed through the Danish Film Institute, and they support films which are they basically don't care much about journalism. They are interested in what is the personal motivations of the filmmaker, what does he want to or she wants to explore or achieve, and so on. So working in that trajectory allows me also to escape the normal constraints of journalism, which I really enjoy.
Yes, and I can totally relate to that as somebody who is also trying for a long time to sit on the two chairs. May I ask you, what is in your journalism skin? What do you do? What kind do you do? Foreign politics? Do you do the reportage? Do you do the what field of it, or you do a bit of this, a bit of that?
Well, I have done a little bit of everything, basically. I have done a lot of what you would call investigative journalism. Together with a colleague, I wrote a book about the killing of an outlaw biker of the Bandidos biker gang in Denmark. I also wrote a book about Denmark's biggest criminal case about sexual exploitation of minors, of children. And I have written a book about a foiled attempt and an unsuccessful conspiracy involving a Danish playboy who was part of a group that was plotting to smuggle the son of Gaddafi to Mexico. So these are examples of large investigative journalistic projects. I have also been the host of the late night news in Denmark on television for a while. But I also write. I have written features, portraits for Danish magazines, and then I have done a lot of radio documentaries, which is a nice way to begin if you want to move into film. Working with how to tell stories in sound.
And in time, when you're in I found that the most problematic element on when you start crossing that now increasingly blurred line between forms and forms, between journalism and filmmaking, is how adapt to the concept of time, that you're not writing and then somebody sets the pace, but you are actually in charge of the rhythm and the pace of the thing. And I must say that you have done that transition, or however you call it, you did it tremendously, because your movies have such a fantastic pace and rhythm. You basically don't let people get away from a screen, not for a second. So I must ask you, do you play any instruments? Do you play music?
Unfortunately, no. I play a little ukulele, but that's, you know, it's a bit like, and I don't want to compare myself to Sherlock Holmes, but it's a bit like how he tries to play the violin. It's not working out. I'm not a very, you know, musical person. I do enjoy music, but I'm not you know, in any ways a gifted musician.
Well, maybe not musician, but which is very obvious from your documentaries. You're doing well with the rhythm and pace, and you don't let people get bored, not even for a sec. What is also interesting in what you just said, it's that when we talk about the constraints of a journalism, but not only constraints of a journalism, but constraints of a written or spoken words without images, that having images as another tool in a storytelling obviously had opened a completely new freedoms or new world for you as an author. Is that not so?
Very much so, and something which I'm still, a reference point for me, and something which I still, use and rely on whilst making films was I studied movies and media science at Copenhagen University. I did my bachelor there in movie science, and through a period of time, say approximately two years, we had to watch a whole lot of films that you do not normally get to see anymore. Early German expressionistic films, Der Freudlose Gasse, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, and so on.
Der Nacht.
Yes, and a lot of these films, really left a mark on me about how how to create captivating images, the basic craft of telling stories using pictures and so on. That is something I'm very keen on.
Yes, the pictures, definitely it's not very often that the pictures, the visual part of documentaries, it's so important to the whole thing as in your movies, and you are not afraid to use what would normally be unorthodox ways of telling a story by having a different proxies that you use in order to construct your narrative. Before going into your movies, I'm very much interested in the Danish cinematography in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot to learn, not only from the Danish cinematography per se, just looking at the films, but also wondering why is it and how is possible that people like Lars von Trier and Mads Brugger come from Denmark? What is it that what is it that you guys enjoy or experience in your formative or before your formative years, in your growing up, that makes you so free, that you venture into unknown territories in a deeper, colder water where the fish are bigger, where this freedom comes from? Freedom to experiment, freedom to get out of the comfort zone, freedom to actually do things that other people would think that are totally insane.
Well, generally speaking, given the size of Denmark, it's, we are only approximately 5 million people. Danish cinema is an anomaly, given how successful and influential
Exactly.
Danish cinema is, going all the way back to T.H. Dreyer, who I still consider to be, the master of Danish cinema. He began as a journalist as well, by the way.
There you are.
Yes, here we go again. No, and of course, Lars von Trier is an absolute genius, and a force of nature almost, creatively speaking. I think some of it has to do with, Denmark being, or Danes in general being, anti-authoritarian, and also that, Denmark not having any, natural resources of importance. We are, by default, left with, what, we have to survive on what we have in here. We do not have iron ore, or enormous oil reservoirs, or vast areas of forests where we can do logging, and compared to Sweden and Norway, we only have human resources, and then we are forced to deal with the rest of the world through trading, through cooperating, and so on. And so a lot of Danish filmmakers try to cross boundaries, to make films of relevance to people outside of Denmark. Also because we are, Danish is a it's a pitchy language. So, if we want to reach a larger audience, we have to, do films which works in other languages and in other cultures. And that is, of course, the miracle of cinema, that, say, a Lars von Trier film, for example, The Idiots.
Exactly. This is what I wanted to mention.
Can be, seen and enjoyed by an audience in Indonesia, or in Eritrea, or in Argentina. That is at least some of the explanation. I think, you should also recognize the overall importance of Tribeca, the production company of Lars von Trier, his producer, Peter Olbæk Jensen. Their combined body of work and their, achievements really, took Danish cinema to a whole new level.
Definitely, and they have produced some of the most fascinating things on the edge of the craft, or something that would be like, if I'm not mistaken, Zoetrope was producing even a porn movies at some point.
Yes, they did porn movies
for women.
Not very successful or interesting porn movies, but maybe it was too early. As in, that has happened before regarding Lars von Trier, that it's too soon or too early. But yes, they did porn movies as well.
Talking about Denmark and going now a bit closer to your North Korea work. Both of your North Korea films, Red Chapel and The Mole, if you look clearly, you don't even have to be a very looking in detail, you would see that you actually had exposed yourself and people involved in the film to certain dangers, which journalists and filmmakers and authors do, and very often that danger and danger zone, venturing into danger zone, whether it's a war or whatever, means that what you get is the price is going to be bigger or higher. But somehow I have a feeling that, particularly with you, that you, as if you have a secret telephone number that you always keep with you, that you can ring and tell, get us out of here. That's throughout your film, there are moments in which and I'm comparing this to my journalistic career that had a number of similar, in which I would have to stop and really consider the next step. Do I go further? And what if, and who's gonna get me out of, whether it's Pyongyang or Uganda or whatever other place. Where do you have that number? Do you have a secret number? Is there a secret number in Denmark that Mads Brugger, Lars von Trier, and a few others have?
No, unfortunately not. My days, working undercover, or relying on people not knowing who I am and what I do, they are pretty much gone because of my films. But initially, but also in some ways still, I try to rely on, or I insist on a sort of enforced naivety, trying to deliberately be naive about the whole situation.
That's exactly the next thing I wanted to talk about.
And then I also rely on a phenomenon we in Danish call the luck of fools. Foolish people often are lucky. Another way of saying it is, the British proverb, who dares wins.
Yes.
That if you risk everything, your livelihood, probably also, your very existence, reality will, reward you. And that is something I deeply believe in. Reality does not, support office clerks who work 9 to 4. Reality is in favor of risk and thrill seekers. And that is something I have experienced a multitude of times. Also, by default, or by, as an instinct, I like things which are, cheap, budget-wise, cheap, fast, and out of control. I normally, I don't favor, planning everything in detail. I want to leave something, to the mechanisms of chance. So speaking about North Korea, the first time I went to Pyongyang, I was,
How many times you've been to Pyongyang? You've been in 2006 for the when you shot the Red Chapel.
Two times. One more time. Yes, I was there 2 times. I was there preparing and negotiating with the North Koreans.
Okay.
Explaining about what kind of project I was pitching and who I am. They were very excited about me looking like Vladimir Lenin. And then they greenlighted the project, and then we came back to shoot the Red Chapel.
And you stayed for a few weeks?
Approximately 3 weeks the second time, and I think 2 weeks the first time. So and then coming back from Pyongyang, and a process began, which is still ongoing, which is me, understanding and learning about and understanding North Korea in hindsight. If I had known back then what I know about North Korea today, I probably would not have gone.
Yes.
I'm very happy that I was not in possession of that body of knowledge back in 2006, because then what was already enormously paranoid would have been absolutely paralyzing.
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience that the last time I was in North Korea was, I believe, 3 years ago, and I've been, I don't know, 6, 7 times in the past 10 or 15 years. That you're right, the level of paranoia had risen, and what was possible, it's not possible anymore. There's some other possibilities now. They're really, which is a big part of your Demol film. They're really in the need of a hard currency, so that the things might happen. But
did you meet any of the people of the North Koreans who are in the mall? Have you met them?
Yes.
Yes. Did you meet the enigmatic Stoneface?
No.
No.
No, but all the guys in the hotel and all the minders from the ministries, they all come and go, and I've been going there practically every year for every time there's a anniversary of deaths or this the big parade, military parades, and this I would go. So yes, some people.
I think actually the best documentary about North Korea is the Polish documentary, The Parade. Do you know that film?
Yes.
Which is it's masterfully made. It's by a Polish director who goes to film a May Day parade in Pyongyang, and he does it. Everything he do is according to North Korean guidelines, principles about aesthetics, and so on. He really plays it by the book, except from he lets the camera run
All the time.
a little bit too long. So when people are cheering or clapping, then he just keeps on rolling, and so it becomes eerie and disturbing and simply weird.
Yeah.
And that method he employs throughout the film. When it was finished, it had its world premiere in Pyongyang, and the North Koreans absolutely loved the film. He was given an award, some sort of Kim Il Sung medal. Then the film reaches America, and the New York Times writes, a review of the film and praises the film as for being a terrifying expose of the horrors of a dictatorship, which makes the North Koreans realize something is not right here. So they do a complete turnaround and takes the order or the medal away from the director and simply bans the film.
Very, 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 very complex place, North Korea. I think that your approach, and if I'm not mistaken, that Ulrich had used the word of useful idiots.
Mm-hmm.
When he was talking about his role in the mall. We are talking about, for those who don't know, we are talking about a retired Danish chef who infiltrated Korean friendship association and became basically a proxy for Mads to tell the story. I think that in not only that film, in Red Chapel too, with Simon and the other guys play in Pyongyang, and also even in a Cold Case of Hammarskjöld, but when you go, you dress as not and you appear not as a toughest guy, the guy who people would be afraid of, which is actually a technique that I employed in totalitarian regimes all over the world when I actually played dumb. And there's actually very, very interesting. You might find it. Do you remember a movie called Argo?
Yes, about Iran.
About the hostage situation at the U.S.
And the fake film they had to pretend making.
So who plays the main character is also the director of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, Ben Affleck, right?
Yes.
Who is this beautiful big American movie star, that almost a superhero with no superhero powers, and he solves all the problems and makes everything goes to the happy end. However, at the end of the film, at the credits, there's a little clip of an actual guy who was that Argo story is based on obviously on a real guy who was nothing like Ben Affleck. Was this little guy who in this little clip was joking with Iranians and basically playing all these you can almost say that he's the one who played a useful idiot, somebody that played dumb in order to get the things that if you are going with the Ben Affleck attitude, you would never be able to do.
Yeah. Yes, I see your point, but in the mole, in a way, my other proxy, Mr. James.
Yes.
Who, as a study in masculinity, he is the exact, counterpoint of the mole. The exact opposite. He is, a larger than life action hero.
But the trust is to the mole. They
yes,
trust Alejandro,
because he is
and
only,
others. They trust the mole.
he is only capable of doing what he does because of the level of trust having been, accumulated and maintained throughout the years by the mole. Without the mole, Mr. James would, of course, never have gone to Pyongyang and elsewhere and met with the North Korean intelligence people and arms dealers.
I have to ask you one thing about the mole, and that's something that, as a question, there was a little question mark that hanged after the release of the mole in some of the North Korea, the website and the media that are focusing on North Korea. NK News, I believe you also had a long podcast, very good, with them, and a 38 Parallel and some others who asked, not questioning authenticity of what has been shown in film, but just asking, and those are the guys who've been to North Korea, and not somebody who doesn't know what North Korea is. And few questions were directed to Mr. James's appearance. One was about the name of the company that he basically invented at a spot, and I believe in the film he says, "Fuck, I have to remember this."
Taga Group.
Taga Group. When he said, "Fuck, remember Taga," and then they start preparing a memorandum of understanding with non-existing Taga Group. Was it really like that? That you didn't going through the drill, which you obviously had to do, that you left something like, okay, who do we present? That you didn't work that out before. That is now I'm playing a devil's advocate. That was something that was asked from those watchdogs.
Yeah, I totally understand. Well, the briefing given to Mr. James before going to Pyongyang was that if they question you about who your, financial collaborators are, what kind of financial setup you have, where, what's the number of your bank account in Credit Suisse?
Exactly.
You are perfectly allowed to tell them, I don't want to, share that kind of information with you. He is there as a customer. He is there to buy stuff, and so we told him if they put a squeeze on you, just tell them, I'm sorry, that is confidential. That is your
But he had to give a name of the company at some point.
Of course, but where I'm getting at is, furthermore, I thought, that the first visit to Pyongyang for Mr. James and the mole would, be just, a little step on the way. I thought that they would be given some sightseeing, maybe go on a tour to the demilitarized zone, probably, but, not for
the
sure.
usual program.
Yes, maybe meet a few dignitaries. And then, they would go back a second or third time before they would meet actual arms dealers. Because I really had my doubts about whether, the president of the Korean Friendship Association, Alejandro Caudebenas, could deliver that people in Pyongyang actually, dealt with him on a serious level. So it escalated,
very quickly,
much faster than we, had ever, anticipated. One of the reasons why we casted and chose Mr. James to play the part as the businessman is, that thanks to his, criminal background, being a jet set cocaine pusher, he is, enormously gifted regarding, how to work a room, how to, establish what's going on socially within a specific environment, and then he is very good at improvising.
Yeah.
So it is true that we had not prepared the details about the company name of Mr. James, because we thought that would not be something which would be addressed.
That's something that you will probably do in a next trip or two trips down the road.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I must say that in all of your movies, and that you could probably have the world very successful career as a casting director, because how you choose people to do things in your movie is just fascinating. Some of them, obviously, some of them are imposed on you. Like if we talk about the investigation on the 1961 killing of Secretary General, you could not. There's some characters that the story brought onto you, right? But then those who you had the liberty to choose as a characters in your movie, like your two black secretaries,
yes,
which is I think such a irrational but fantastic element of your film. I think if I would not be mistaken if I would now. I think that Einstein said once, if I was doing things rationally, I wouldn't get very far with what I do. That you do a lot of irrational things, like having two ladies playing your secretary. So those characters, or Simon and the comedians from Red Chapel, and Ulrich at the end is also a fantastic character. I believe that the storytelling aside, the preparation, the journalism and investigation, let's put that aside for a moment. How you work with the characters who are carrying the story, it's such an important part of what you do.
Oh, thank you. Well, regarding the mold, it almost kind of backfired, because before the release of the mold, we discovered that some people, when they were given a screener or a link for a screener to various rough cuts of the mold, if they were not, given a full context as well, they thought it was a work of fiction.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Because there are something enormously fictitious about the whole gallery of characters, basically.
From the stone face to the everybody. Everybody is like almost from you have a chief villain, then you have the little villains, then it's a James Bond-esque kind of a character.
And even Alejandro Caudebinos, the president of the KFA, who is a ready-made James Bond villain, he speaks in monologues which almost come across as written by a very gifted and quite funny scriptwriter,
Exactly.
No, but part of it also has to do
with... He could have a successful career in doing this, in doing something like writing speeches for other people if he didn't go the way he went.
Definitely,
I have to ask you, is he all right?
Alejandro Caudebinos?
Yes.
I suppose so, and that is...
he embarrassed Mads. We know Alexandra is a well-known character for all of us who've been involved in North Korea, and we all know who he is. We did think that he's not he's not character of that scale that he actually turned to be in your movie. We thought that he's more of
a buffoon.
I wouldn't say a joker.
Yes, but a clownish kind of figure.
Yes, and he's been around, around since time ago.
That was also my impression.
Then all of a sudden he pulls out a catalog that actually the one of the things when I stopped having any doubts about the authenticity of your film, actually when they pulled out the catalog, because I've seen exactly same print of the same catalog with the prices.
No, but also how he is,
it's unreal how he evolved in this. How did he evolve from being just a puppet mouthpiece for or however you call it, for a regime, and somebody who's going to buy an island in Uganda in a triangle deal with a Jordanian oil dealer. So you have drugs, oil.
It's extraordinary.
Alejandro, unreal.
Well, it's the way Alejandro maneuvers, the network he operates, that is that is very much for real, and that makes him a quite dangerous individual. I thought the release of The Mole would lead to the arrest of Alejandro Cautepinas.
For whatever side, for the Spanish or North Korean, whoever.
Yes. I thought, that there would be an enormous fallout and a lot of consequences for Alejandro Cautepinas because of The Mole. But essentially, nothing has happened. He is still walking the streets of Tarragona. And
was he back to North Korea after the release of The Mole?
No, but because
that is going to be an interesting moment.
Yes.
That is going to be a very interesting moment.
He is still, not capable of leaving Spain because they have
confiscated his passport has been taken.
But that is also a weird story. I have never heard about that kind of a governmental sanction that they take your passport away from you.
Yeah,
maybe it is something they do in Spain.
In our part of Europe, we do have that they basically prevent you from leaving the country while the investigation is ongoing or whatever.
But all of this have made me contemplate that maybe Alejandro Cautepinas is a double agent himself.
Oh, come on. So we have The Mole 2 coming.
Never say never. No, but it is weird that Spanish authorities allow Alejandro Cautepinas to do what he does.
So the truth moment would be when he goes back to North Korea, if he ever goes.
Well, if I was Alejandro Cautepinas,
I would never go back to North Korea.
I would not go back to Pyongyang because I
tell you, I read numerous books on North Korea, of which many are not that good, to be honest. All those books that are based on accounts and interviews given by the people who escaped. That I never fully trusted apart from few.
There is one book I really enjoy and I really recommend.
There is one what's the pit in
it's the aquariums of Pyongyang.
Yes.
Which is good, but then there is also, and that is not a refugee testimonial. It's a book by.
There's a very good one by James Person.
No, but just let me finish. It's a book about. It's a book written by an American scholar who lives in South Korea, where he also teaches. His name is Brian R. Myers, and the book is called The Cleanest Race.
Oh, that's right.
And compared to many North Korea scholars, he speaks Korean. Mm-hmm. And then he thought, his thesis is, if we are to understand the North Koreans, we have to closely study the internal propaganda. What do they tell their own people?
course.
And the biggest archive of internal DPRK propaganda is of course the archives of the South Korean intelligence agency, KCIA. And he was given access to this gigantic archive and studied it extensively. And then he wrote this book, The Cleanest Race, based on his studies, which contains enormously interesting findings. For example, he discovers that traditionally in Korean culture, the mother as a figure is much more important than the father is.
Exactly.
And because of that, they give their leaders maternal qualities in the propaganda. He shows a poster where Kim Jong-il is embracing a soldier, and then there's a tagline which says, "I long for the bosom of my beloved general." It's really weird. Also, he writes a lot about how they are obsessed with the purity of blood. That he quotes a banner which says, the blood of our masses is the purest blood in the world. And which leads them, the regime to a doctrine which says that because we are so pure, we are also very innocent. We are almost a country of children, basically. So we need strong parental guidance.
That makes sense. Let's go back to the mall, to the filming, the pace of how the whole thing basically exploded in what you didn't expect, I believe, from the very beginning, that you're going to get involved in buying an island in Uganda to build a weapon and meth factory, and which I also think it's fascinating, how you adapt your films. Of course, documentaries cannot be fully scripted or scripted at all. It would be stupid to do a documentary, especially of kind of investigation with the cold case. A movie, but you do adapt well in a course of shooting, and you let the story take you. So here's my question, and I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, and it's about the use of hidden cameras in the mall. Extensive use of hidden cameras, basically. That if something had made people think that this is a work of fiction and not documentary, it's how incredibly well, and you were very good in it, but also probably very lucky how the whole thing had worked, especially when Alejandro comes with his the
bug detector.
Little bug detector that didn't detect something but the car keys, or whatever was it. But the use of that equipment, it's a huge question in a world of journalism, movie making, and just a life in general. The Denmark itself had, if I'm not mistaken, the case of a jewelry shop owner who had captured the thief who robbed his jewelry shop, injured his wife and the other lady who was in the shop, and he captured him on a CCTV, and he released the pictures that in order to find a criminal. They did find a criminal, but released him and punished the owner for using the CCTV pictures without the context of the thief, which is, hold on a second, let's think about it. So that's Denmark, right? So here you are now using the hidden cameras left and right, up, down, You must have gone through this with your legal team in details. How you gonna, is it, I mean, if you, again, I'm playing a devil's advocate here, right? If we would come even from the rights perspective, what these people that you're filming, what right they have? Do they have right? Is it public space? Is it private space? Do we film them only, or we film everybody that way? And why do we film only them and not everybody? That also you film Alejandro too, not only North Koreans. How did you go through that? Did you have difficulties? Because you might be called, as you are called, a maverick filmmaker in a press. However, your movies, including Mole, are produced and run on a BBC and a Danish national television. So there must be a lot of legal issues being discussed. How did you clear the usage of those such extensive usage of the surveillance equipment with your production team or lawyers or whoever?
Yes. Well, the use of hidden cameras is, of course, it's the ultimate weapon in journalism, and the most radical device you can deploy as a journalist and a filmmaker.
The last resort.
That's the last resort, and you have to be enormously averse about why you're using it and how you're using it, and regarding the Mole, initially, Ulrich was not using hidden cameras. He was filming himself,
Yes, that's
out in the open.
He was, the YouTube, the this and that, fine.
Yes, but having an undercover agent within the Danish North Korean Friendship Association is also, ethically speaking,
problematic.
Something you could question, because
we can question easily. We can talk for hours about it.
Yes, because that is also, in Danish we have an expression to shoot or kill a bird using a cannon. It's an overkill, and also very important is that when he is in North Korea, never at any point does he use hidden cameras. He does not even bring the equipment with him, because
that would be impossible.
Yes, but that could land him in harm's way. When we do use hidden cameras in the Mole, that is where we are documenting criminal activity.
But hold on a second. Again, a devil's advocate. Who said it's a criminal activity?
Well, sanctions busting, is selling weapons, discussing buying weapons, buying drugs, planning for a drug and weapons factory in Africa, involving government officials and so on. All of this is, or at least most of it, contains elements which are criminal.
So what you want to say is that you started using cameras when the movie evolved in a criminal, because for a good part of the movie, we didn't know that we're going to go into that, right? And then at some point,
of course, the point of no return is the meeting with Alejandro Kaudepinas in Oslo, where we use hidden cameras. We have no idea what he is going to pitch.
Exactly. So at that point, we were not into the crime territory yet.
No, but during that meeting, Alejandro Kaudepinas, takes us down the rabbit hole and says, We can
Matt.
deliver drugs, submarines, tanks, missiles, whatever you want. We can deliver, and that really ticks a box. Another reason is, or another, I would say, rule is, would it be possible to film this in any other way? If you would say, ask Alejandro Caudebenas or
For an interview, yes.
or his Jordanian business partner Al Dasuki, would you allow us to film what you are doing here? Most likely, the answer would be, forget about it.
Did you?
So I think it is, just fully justifiable using hidden cameras here. So does, the legal departments of Danish Broadcasting Corporation, Norwegian Broadcasting Corporation, Swedish Broadcasting Corporation, and the BBC. They all
cleared it.
They have been spending, weeks and months discussing, debating, analyzing, writing memorandums. So I feel really, in a safe space when I say that is fully cleared and fully justifiable.
Very good. Did you use any of such methods of gathering facts or information in your journalist career?
You mean,
recording without the content of the other side and using it?
Yes, I have used that, quite extensively. But I do prefer to do it by the book out in the open. But I have found or have been in situations before where doing recordings in secret was the only way to do it.
Well, Mads, we have used our hour. I could actually now talk to you for another 3 hours. I think we have a lot of interesting subjects to bring. We didn't talk about the ambassador at all. But thank you very much for this. This is going to be a recording of this on a YouTube channel tomorrow, and I would encourage everybody not only to listen what you were saying today, but really to watch your movies, because they can be analyzed from so many aspects, so many angles, from what we spoke a little bit of the freedoms or specificum of being a Dane. What is it so different about to the use of unorthodox way of filming things? Something that we didn't speak is how you filmed the Red Chapel using these super wide, almost a fish-eye lens to distort even more what is already dystopian-looking reality,
which actually caused us problems, because one of the photographers was doing some filmings of a statue of Kim Il Sung, and because of the lens, he looked, more obese than what is, politically correct in North Korea.
Obviously, from the bottom, they don't like the wide angles from the bottom on Kim Il Sung statues.
No,
I know that for fact.
Yes, it's very, very definitely no go. So they became enormously upset, the North Koreans, about that. So be careful what kind of lenses you choose when you are filming in North Korea.
Well, Mads, thank you very much, and please say hello to them all, and tell him that I'm pretty sure that by now he has an army of fans all around the world, and also to Mr. James, who I believe is now into a legitimate legal business.
Yes.
It's really a privilege to have you at the Sarajevo Film Festival, and to actually have you around as a filmmaker. So thank you very much for your work and for doing this talk with us.
Thank you, Damir. I really enjoyed this talk, and have a nice weekend.
Okay, let's keep in touch. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks everybody, and stay tuned for more CineLink Talks soon.